Welcome, everybody, to Freelance Writing Direct. I'm your host, Estelle Erasmus, the author of Writing That Gets Noticed, Find Your Voice, Become a Better Storyteller, Get Published, and it is now a course at NYU and an elective towards the journalism certificate. Every week, I speak with novelists, with authors, with writers of every niche to talk about their tips, their tricks, their strategies, and how the sauce is made, including creative advice. I'll talk about essays and articles and share my own experience from 3 decades of publishing. So join me every week and grow your business and build your craft with Freelance Writing Direct. And don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes. And follow along on Substack, where I share special clips for subscribers only at estelleserasmus.substack.com. Welcome, everybody, to this episode of Freelance Writing Direct. I'm your host, Estelle Erasmus, the author of Writing That Gets Noticed, Find Your Voice, Become a Better Storyteller, Get Published. And I'm so happy to have Megy Karydes with us today. Welcome.
Hi there. So great to see you, Estelle.
Great to see you. And I want to tell you a little bit about Megy. She's a Chicago-based writer and communications professional. Her work has appeared in USA Today, National Geographic, The Atlantic, Sierra Club, Forbes, Eating Well, Architectural Digest, Midwest Living, and elsewhere. Megy also helped lead and manage communications campaigns and projects for science-focused and social justice organizations. She teaches graduate-level communications courses at Johns Hopkins University. She journals every morning and does kickboxing at night as a way to de-stress after a long day. She lives with her husband, 2 teenagers, and their dog, who barks indiscriminately at all outdoor decorations, whether it's Halloween decor or baby Jesus in a manger during her daily walks. When she's not lost in a good book or trying a new indie restaurant in town, you can find her and I'll give you her website. It's MEGYKARYDES.com. And I'll make sure to include that in the show notes. Welcome, Megy.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Estelle. I've been listening to your podcast. I love it. And I love it. I love your book. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you so much. And this is Megy's new book, 50 Ways to More Calm, Less Stress, Scientifically Proven Ways to Relieve Anxiety and Boost Your Mental Health. And I'm telling you, as somebody who honed my teeth in service journalism, starting when I worked at Woman's World magazine in the beauty department, this really brought me back. And it's also something that I cover in my book. I have a whole section at your reader's service talking about service journalism. And what that is tips and tricks and strategies and ways to improve your life, just really to boil it down into a nutshell. And you did this in this book. And I was so happy to see, even at the end, try this, ways to try it is what you called it. And you gave specific examples of how to try these different strategies that deal with the senses. So you broke down the book in touch, taste, smell, hear, and see, which I love because that is service journalism in a nutshell. And you are a journalist and a member of ASJA, which I've been a member of since 1997. And so can you tell me how this book came about, how you decided, I want to write a book about all these health and alternative and all different therapies and ways to reduce stress and get more calm, and also how the book deal came about as well?
Yeah, no, those are great questions. And yeah, it's the book originally started because I was actually going through my own issues of trying to figure out ways to calm my body and mind. And it's not necessarily that I was having a mental breakdown or anything like that. It was literally just waking up every morning and seeing all the tabs on your computer screen open and trying to figure out which one to tackle first. And what was happening is I was so overwhelmed with the work that I would go to sleep and I would wake up with my teeth clenched, and I could feel that your shoulders are kind of like you have that feeling, right? And so I was like, it's not sustainable. This is stupid. There's no reason for this. I am not an ER doctor. I should not have to, you know what I mean? There are certain professions where that kind of stress is like, expected because of the livelihoods that are at stake. Nothing I was working on was that. So I had to figure out how to just kind of reduce the noise, I guess, is in my head and just kind of find my focus. So there's a lot of people I read on a regular basis, and there's all these things, but I really just wanted to find ways to help myself. And so that's how I started journaling. This is like years ago. I've started journaling every single morning, with Julia Cameron's morning pages. I would drink my black coffee, and it wasn't even about drinking the coffee as much as it was, and I even have it right here, just literally holding my coffee mug, right? So it was like all these little things that just kind of give you some pause throughout your day that were helping. But then I'm like, okay, that's great, but there's got to be other things. That was how I started putting together this book. And I'm so grateful that I have an amazing mental health therapist who's the one who recommended the light therapy lamp, for example. So I'm like, this makes no sense. Why would a lamp be that significant? And I'm like, I have nothing to lose, right? So I went and bought myself a light therapy lamp.
And you're referring to seasonal affective disorder, a way of addressing that, but with therapy lamp. Okay.
Exactly. I have what they call the winter blues, like you said, seasonal affective disorder. And I bought myself a light therapy lamp. It's like the size of a desk monitor. It's huge. It's so passive, right? You turn it on and game changer. I mean, for me, it was like no pun intended, a light went off. I'm like, there are so many things that we can do, right? So that's how this book kind of got started, was honestly with that light therapy lamp, because I'm like, what else is out there that I can try? So I did forest therapy. I went for my, so it just kind of built from there. And then I have a joke. I have a small light therapy lamp I purchased because in case I couldn't be in my living room, which is where it's based, the big one, I wanted this more portable one. And so I was telling my girlfriends about this. I'm like, this light therapy lamp is like the best, but it's an investment. It's not a huge investment, but it's still an investment. So they're like, can I borrow your portable therapy lamp? I'm like, sure. So I would give it to them. It became a joke, like a community therapy lamp, because they would give it back to me after a couple of weeks. And they're like, I bought my own. It was amazing. It helped my husband, who was like a passive user. It worked for him. So, and then my girlfriend started passing around the therapy lamp. So that's when I knew I had a book. That is actually when I'm like, you know what? I'm learning all this stuff for myself. I'm sharing it with my friends who are seemingly benefiting from it. Why don't I take all the things that I'm learning about myself and put together a book proposal?
Okay. And so that's how that came about. Did you have an agent already?
Yeah. So this is where it gets tricky. And again, so happy that I'm a member of the American Society of Journalists and Authors, which we're both members, ASJA, because I would go to these conferences in New York City or wherever they were located, meet with book agents, and oftentimes you hear the same thing. You need a platform. You need a platform. I'm not going to sign you. I'm like, okay, well, I'm not Taylor Swift. So I don't have a platform, right? So, and I wasn't doing mental health and only that kind of writing. So it was hard to kind of develop a niche per se as a reporter. I was also sending it to a couple of book publishers, which kind of bypasses that book agent process.
Yeah.
And I ended up working, Erin McCleary is my book editor at Source Books. And she's the one who reached out to me and says, I want this book. I love this book. It's perfect for this the time. Do you have a book agent? And I'm like, no.
So you sent it to her, or
I sent it, yes, I sent it straight to the publisher. And yeah, she's the one who got back to me, and she's like, I really want to work with you. I can work directly with you, but it'd be great if you had a book agent on your behalf.
So I want to unpack that for a minute, because I recently had my publisher, New World Library, on the program. And New World Library works with agents, and I had an agent that actually I met through ASJA, but they also work with people who are unagented. So
Yes.
does source books. So it behooves a writer
Yes.
who is looking into the publishing process to look everywhere, go
Agreed.
to conferences, do the pitch dates with agents, with editors,
Mhm.
and don't just think that the holy grail is somebody up there on Mount Olympus will be, I will take you on, because
For
I have
sure.
several agents in my life. And
Agree.
it's not the be all end all, and it needs to be a
Yeah.
mutually beneficial scene. And we've
Yes.
both seen on social media people trumpeting that they've received it, they have an agent or have a call with an agent,
Nothing.
never hear it, nothing. So again, use your mind, use your resources. I always recommend getting a subscription to Publishers Marketplace, even for a month,
Yeah.
just to check out and make sure the agents that you're looking at, or the editors or the publishers, are publishing the type of stories or the types of books that you're looking into.
So I should go back just one step. I did have a book agent for another book project I was working with. It was more about female mixologists. This was about 6 years ago. She was awesome. She's in New York City, one of those big agency book agents. She's wonderful. However, I did not end up working with her because her niche and expertise is different than this book. So that's a good point when you say you have other book agents for various books, because not every book agent is going to make sense based on their expertise. So I ended up working with another book agent who was recommended to me by another ASJ member, Jeanette Hurt, out of Wisconsin.
Jeanette, adore
Oh,
Jeanette.
I love Jeanette. She's amazing. And I'll get back to her about as well, because I think that's the one benefit that I've really gotten out of membership of ASJ. And I don't mean this to be like an ad for ASJ, but you're right. The relationships that you make at these conferences, the things that you learn, the people you meet really do end up benefiting your career. So for people who kind of shy away, because I don't consider myself an introvert. I can be, but I don't really. So I have no problem going to these conferences, but I can tell you that even if you are an introvert, you can find your people at these conferences. There's a lot of people who don't have that extrovertedness that you know what I mean? Like it's a great opportunity for people to learn, but also to meet other people, because those relationships have 100% created my career.
Yeah.
But yes, I ended up working with Marilyn Allen, who is with her.
Her? Yes, I know
And
Marilyn.
Amy, yeah, and I met her before at an ASA conference, so it worked out awesome. She was able to negotiate a better contract for me, so it really did make sense to bring in an agent in my case. But like you said, you can work with many publishers unagented if they're willing to work with
Right.
authors directly.
You're a journalist, like I am. You have a lot of research in the book. And I love research because why? Research adds the credibility factor to whatever you're working on. So journalists know that the research shows that there is veracity to what they're saying, to what they're writing about. And credible research, which means it could be peer reviewed, it could have a large study, it could have top researchers involved from top universities. That always adds so much. So you have a lot of research in here, and good, solid research. How did you go about deciding, and what sources did you use?
That's a great question. And you're right. Because I am not a mental health therapist or a psychiatrist, some of this stuff is not, you know, this is not what I do every day, right? So I needed to rely on those external sources to add credibility for the book, because otherwise it's an anecdotal book, right? It's not grounded in research and science. So as a reporter, I know where to research. I know that you need to go to those top sources to interview people. And these people are all they're busy, they're professionals. So you have to kind of be willing to work with their schedules too. So I can't tell you how many people I had to, I wouldn't say harass, but but that's part of our job, right? You're persistent, you have to keep following up with them, you have to explain to them why this matters, you know what I mean? All this stuff. So yes, the major media outlets, the major mental health institutions. I also looked for authors in their own right, who I interviewed in the book, experts because they've been doing it, all the things that you would consider whenever you're researching. I think at the end, and not everybody made it in the book, right? But I think at the end of the day, I had something like 130 resources that ended up making it in the book, and something like 120 people. It was something ridiculous, but it's 50 tips. So each idea has at least two people, if not more, or research that supports that activity.
Where did you go to find your research?
Yeah, so some of the stuff I would do like Google searches for like scholarly research. So you would use Google Scholar, or you would go to PubMed. I would use Eureka. I looked at Johns Hopkins, Cleveland Clinic,
Huh.
Johns Harvard Health, like all the major larger organizations. And then sometimes when my idea was a little bit more niche, I had to really go digging for that data because not everything had like a major study around it. Like the craftivism one, for example, was, I think there was like one or two studies done in London on the benefits of knitting, but I found it. I found something. And there were other things that I didn't include because there weren't enough scientific research
Right.
to really support what it was. And things like using crystals, for example. It's not to say that that doesn't do what I'm looking to do. I just couldn't find the type of research I needed for it to make it into the book.
You cover so much in these different areas, which is so great. In my book, I have a whole section on research because I think it's so important. If you know where to go and you need the right websites. And so I think it's so important to include that. And you have also in your notes, you have notes at the end also of the book. So you include where you got certain information from, which I think is so helpful.
Yeah. And the other way you can look for research is just honestly to ask people. It's amazing to me when I was trying to do some research. Do you know somebody else who I can interview? And it doesn't even have to be the expert on that particular topic. This happened a lot with my sound part. Is I was looking specifically for people who did work around like gongs or music bowls, things like that. Yeah. And I could not find enough people. Now I feel like I found a ton of them, but when I was doing the research for the book, I had a really hard time finding people. And it was through, I'm working on this other topic. Do you have recommendations for this? And
Yes.
people know people.
Especially if you get somebody in, like if you go to an association, right? Like
Mhm.
most organizations or
Yeah.
most topic areas are going to have an association around it, even to the point where the writers, freelance writers, the American Society of Journalists and Authors, or for authors, or the Authors Guild, or whatever. If you're going to like the American Psychological Association, you're looking in the media section, you're looking for spokespeople. I mean, that's more of a broad topic, but you're looking for very specific things, bookbinding. Is there a
Mhm.
National Association of Bookbinders?
Yes. Yeah. And there's always a magazine on the top. There really are amazing resources. You just have to look for them. They're out there. You just have to find them.
Not only did you have the research that you shared a little bit of if you had experience, like you had experience with morning pages. So you talked about that, but you also shared anecdotes from people who maybe you didn't have the experience, but they had the experience of forest bathing or
Right.
sound
Yeah.
healing. And as I was reading the book, and I thought I've done a lot. I mean, I've done a lot in my life, from parasailing to trying skiing, not really loving it, but doing it out west, to doing a lot of different kind of things. But there were things that I saw that I was like, oh, I would love to try a flotation tank. Like I never thought about that. And I thought, oh, that's really interesting. I actually edited a story from a former student of mine, Julie Fraga, for Narratively when I was guest editor there, about sound healing. And so I was reading more about it in your book, and I thought, well, that's interesting too. I think people will not only be able to take an element from what they're already doing. Maybe they're collecting candles and nice smelling candles. Now they're going to know the science behind why the candles are working so effectively for them, or what scents are the best scents to use. And then they could also find something that maybe they never thought of before. Like, I also want to get a weighted blanket now. In the
Right.
section, you talk about that, and I actually started doing some research, and I thought, a 30-pound one is too
Right.
heavy, maybe
Right.
25, but maybe I start with a little one, like a baby one,
Right.
and see how I feel, use it just by my neck. I don't know, it's good,
Yeah.
I was thinking of that. So I think it's great because I always love when a book expands your world in some way. And because this is strictly nonfiction, help, but it still has that element of surprise and being able to learn and grow. So that's wonderful. And the anecdotes, did you find them through the experts, or did you do separate searches like on Help a Reporter Out or something like
Yeah.
that to get
Yeah.
experts, or ProfNet? Another.
Some, yes. And there are places online, especially as reporters, that you can put out a call for. So it's something like a help a reporter, but there's, for example, I don't know if you're a member of it, but PR czars. Because I also do PR work, I'm in a couple of Facebook groups where they have sources or they represent people. So when I was looking for people, like for example, the flotation one, that is actually one thing I didn't know of anybody who had done it. So I really had to go out to find someone. And it turned out some woman who I interviewed for another story, she came to me because she had seen my request and she's like, hey, I've not done it, but I have a friend who owns a place in Virginia, a flotation center. Do you want to talk to him? So again, it's that kind of degrees of separation. And I ended up talking to him. And he was great. He actually is the one who told me that you don't have to know how to swim in order to do it. And I'm like, really? Because I don't actually know how to swim. I was so afraid to try it because I don't want to drown. And he's like, no, you can't drown. So I'm like, and so as a result of interviewing him, I booked a flotation session and I booked another one because that was the other thing he said. He's like, you can't just do it once. You really have to do it a couple of times to see. So, but to your point, there were things in the book that I included that I had never done myself, but everything in the book I have at least done once. I ended up trying to do it because I'm like, if I'm going to tell people these are things that they can do, I want to be able to say that I've done them myself.
The one
So
Yeah, the one that I was a little like, I'm wondering about is bookbinding.
yeah.
It didn't sound that exciting
Yeah,
to.
yeah. Totally fair, totally fair. And I have to say, I've actually been doing it as a form of meditation. So when my book editor, there was a couple of chapters that she's like, let's get rid of this one. Can you add another? So bookbinding is actually one that came towards the very end. And it was because I was doing it myself. So then I started again doing the research. Is there enough research around this topic? That's how I found it, and that's how it ended up in the book. It's
Ah,
sometimes it's just being in the moment and while bookbinding is probably not going to be something most people are going to try, there
right.
are enough people who do other things like crafting, embroidery, other things like with their hands that
Yes,
this
yes.
might be something they consider. And the other thing that I had learned while writing the book, I had interviewed a woman by the name of Shannon Downey. She's the badass cross stitch. And one of the things that she had mentioned to me that was super interesting when I interviewed her is I said, what is it about this experience that is calming to you? And she's like, I can't do anything else with my hands. I can't check my email. I can't check my phone. I
Uh,
can't smoke. I don't know if she smokes, but her point is that's all you can do. You can only do that. When you're trying to get that thread
yeah,
through the cover, you can't do anything else. You have to be immersed in that activity. So whether or not you're baking bread or doodling or whatever, you're using your hands.
right.
And being away from your phone, for some people, that's what they need. They need something to do with their hands.
And let's talk about that because you mentioned digital detox.
Mhm.
And I wrote about that years ago for Quartz. And I think it's so interesting. Like, you're talking about digital detox and you have a book out. Are
Mhm.
you doing digital detox now?
Yeah, so there's certain things that I've actually implemented to try to reduce my own reliance on my devices. And I don't know if this is something that Android has, but Apple Watch or Apple phones do. There's a feature called downtime on the Apple phone. And what you do is you literally put like when your phone basically shuts off all the apps and the emails, and
Wow.
then when it can go back on. So at night at 10 p.m., it completely goes off. And then it starts up again at 7 a.m. So any emails, any texts, any app notifications that come through do not come through during my downtime. The only ones I allow are texts from very specific people, which is basically my husband and my kids
Right.
and my mom, and that's it. Nobody else can come through. So if I get a text from my best friend, she has to wait.
What kind of challenges did you deal with in the creating of this book? Because there's so many elements in place that have to kind of work together along with the publishing schedules.
So as a writer, we have deadlines. As a book, you don't have deadlines. You have one deadline basically. And that deadline is like months away. I don't work like that. I need like very clear deadlines, very
Yes.
tight. So I had to create my own, and that was hard. So in that case, I knew that was a problem for me, right? I'm very deadline oriented. So there's a woman by the name of Laura Shin. She and
Yeah.
I met years ago at a writing workshop, and she's amazing. She happened to be writing a book at the same time. So she and I ended up connecting and becoming accountability buddies. Every morning we would text, and every night we would text each other. And it would be like, what am I doing today? This is what I need to get done today. At the end of the day, we would text, did you get it done? And why didn't you get it done? So it became my own version of a deadline where I plot. I'm a plotter too. I like to plan things. So I'm like, okay, every week I have to do at least this much in order to work towards the end of the book. So kind of breaking it down into those digestible deadlines
Yeah.
helped me because I was freaking out. Like I only had 6 months to write the book once the contract was like signed.
Right.
And I teach graduate level communications students. So I have grading to do, I have teaching to do, and you have regular assignments. So the
Yeah.
other challenge for me is you don't get paid for your final, advance until the end of the book, right? So you get it at the beginning part of it, and then you get it at the end.
Yeah.
So you still have to make an income. Like I've got
Right.
2 kids going to college. The advance wasn't enough to just, not work. So you have other deadlines that you have to meet. So what I started doing is, okay, what can I do with this reporting that I can maybe siphon off and use for the book? I need to do double duty. How can I manage my time so I won't go bananas with the deadline? So there were challenges though. I mean, there's some like sources who said they were going to get on the phone with you, canceled at the 11th hour.
So when you did double duty, that means that you would get a source or a resource that would use for the book, an
Mhm.
expert, and then you would say, oh, this is great information. It's not going to be like my book, but maybe I can do a specific spin on an
Yeah.
aspect of what this person is talking about. And you would pitch it then
Yes.
to a publication.
Exactly. But here's the thing. There's no, or I would do it the other way, right? So I'm interviewing them for a story, and I was thinking, okay, I can actually pull this out and work on, I can include that in the book. So if you decide to do that, as we all know, contracts are important. So you need to look at your contract with your original assignment editor because they may own all of that and discoverability still, right? So if you have a contract that says any interview becomes their property, no matter if you discover something new, problem, right? So you just have to make sure that if your contract stipulates that, either you renegotiate it with your editor.
I talk about contracts in my book because, like you said, work for hire is they own it forever in perpetuity, which is and in every form, which means they can use it as a brochure for an international company that's putting another product out. They could slap different names on it. They can have their whole editorial team as the writer. So there's really, you have to be very comfortable allowing some, and I have had things that I've done work for hire. There just haven't been personal stories,
Mhm.
it's been something that it's one and done. So you covered breathing, which I thought was really helpful because breathing, I never had a problem with breathing until the pandemic. And then I did have a problem with breathing, like catching my breath, losing it, not being able to swallow sometimes at night. It's all like panic related. but it made me put a real focus on breathing and box breathing and the things that you talk about, and which some things are military exercises in breathing as well. And so I thought that was great that you included that, because so many people today, breathing is part of the management of their mental health. And you also talked to Latrice Eisman, which I was so happy to see, because back in my days at Woman's World, she was somebody who was an expert that we used. She was with the Pantone Color Institute, and she's been there for decades because I spoke with her back in the 90s. So she's somebody who I was like happy to see in a store.
In a former life, I used to work at the Merchandise Mart in Chicago. So we used to do a lot of trade shows in the home space. And that's how I originally met her. And she's remarkable. I mean, the color of the year with Pantone, it's amazing. And I really wanted her. And again, she was one of those people that you had to go through their PR people. And it was hard to get her. So I went through her LinkedIn and she's like, oh, thanks for letting me know. I'll be in touch with my PR people. And somehow it happened.
So we've covered so much. We're almost out of time, but is there anything that I didn't ask you that you want to share about your book?
Yeah, there's a couple of things, and the only reason I want to mention it is because I think it's important for people to understand there are things that you can do that are free, low cost, no matter your age, skill set, interest. There is something that people can do to help calm their body and mind. And it doesn't have to be from my book. I just want people to feel like they have some agency to discover what works for them. And can you imagine if everybody didn't have to be stressed out all the time? I mean, what what an amazing world it would be. The other part is there is so much power in community, and just considering you don't have to do this alone. And a lot of the things in the book are meant for one person or for you to consider what you can do for yourself. But even finding your people and finding something that you're interested in, there are other people like you who are interested in that too. So it doesn't have to be 10 people, it could be one person. And just to put yourself out there, I think you'd reap so much benefit from that.
Absolutely. And even what you said earlier about having an accountability buddy. I mean, most people can just do that very easily. Call somebody up and say, hey, I never thought of it as relating to texting. I just thought of it, oh, you have to give pages, you have to, it's like a lot of work. But the texting thing, I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think it's something I could even do. And I have somebody in mind. So she'll be hearing from me later today.
Great. I'm so glad.
Thank you, Megy, for all these tips for this great book
Thank you.
and for talking to me today. It's been really a pleasure having you. What's
My pleasure.
next
Thank
for
you.
you? What's next? Is there another book?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out another book idea, and we're just going to wait to see how this book does. And the other thing I'm going to do is ramp up my ghostwriting. I've already ghostwritten a book. I've ghostwritten for other clients. I think I'm ready to just kind of move in that direction a little bit more too. So I like long form work. I love the organization and just kind of deep dive into a story idea. So that might be something I'm gonna.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Follow me at EstelleSErasmus.com on my website and on social media, which is Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter at Estelle S. Erasmus. And we're now on YouTube for Freelance Writing Direct. Follow along, and soon everyone will be reading what you're writing.